Welcome to the Reidsville Chamber of Commerce News and Views show. I'm your host, Diane Sawyer, President and CEO of the Reidsville Chamber. Today we have an episode with the City of Reidsville, our monthly check-in. So I would like to welcome to the show Chief and Assistant City Manager Josh Farmer. And would you like to introduce your guest that you brought with us today?
Sure, Diane. First, thanks for having us.
Yeah.
It's always a pleasure to be here. I'm sorry that Summer is still absent. I know she's looking forward to getting back. But again, I'm Josh Farmer, the Fire Chief Assistant City Manager for the City of Reidsville, who oversees building inspections, permitting, and engineering in all city facilities, as well as the fire department. But today it is a pleasure that I had a tag-along guest, Mr. Chuck Williams, who is our new building code administrator for the City of Reidsville.
It's a pleasure to be here with you today. How are you?
I'm great, sir. I am very excited to have you. I know that you have been on the job now for a few months. Is that right?
It is since September 15th.
Okay, there we go. So yeah, going on, a few months and a few days, I guess, at this point, or getting ready to be.
And
so
time has flown. It's been really nice.
It has flown because I feel like I remember it was like third day on the job. We were doing a project together, and it seemed like you were just always been part of the team. Like it was like there was Chuck, and so it was very good. I know that we want to talk about some things today that I think are sometimes a little bit misconstrued, and some you guys have had some structure changes. Tell us about the infrastructure changes and kind of how that puts things in perspective, and how you think that that's helpful to our businesses and our community and our residents.
Sure, yeah. So I won't steal the highlight from Chuck, obviously, but I guess just a very brief introduction is, back in July of last year, Miss Summer Moore decided to do some restructuring and reorganization of some departments, some divisions, and some oversights. And I was fortunate and blessed enough to be selected to lead the building inspection and permitting department, and which now Chuck is obviously the building code administrator. So he is our patriarch, so to speak. He is the hierarchy at the top, and he brings a multifaceted experience background in both construction and building inspections. So we have been very fortunate to onboard him. He did join the city a few years ago, had a small separation where he went to work for Rockingham County. But again, I know I keep saying fortunate, but we were fortunate enough to get him back.
Absolutely.
And blessed to get him back. So he is here. I'll let him talk about the perspectives and the vision that he has for the building inspections department, and maybe share a little bit about what the mission and the goal and the duties are, and kind of what his day-to-day looks like, because I feel like the general public don't really see us as who we are and what we do. They always look at us as code enforcement officials. And whenever anyone is considered a code enforcement official, people sometimes get intimidated because they feel like they have some authority, right, or some enforcement actions always that the code enforcement officer is looking to go after. But that's not always the case. We want to partner. We want to try to partner with these people to see if we can educate them to not only gain required code enforcement compliance, but voluntarily compliance on the minimums that's required by local rules, laws, and building code compliance.
Yep. So Chuck, tell us, I know that you've got a really great background that brought you to this position in construction and some other things, but tell us a little bit about your background that kind of led you to this.
So I've been in the construction industry about 25 years. I began as an electrical contractor and then moved to electrical, mechanical, plumbing, and building, doing residential and industrial projects. And that has really been a huge part of my life. I bring that into the inspections department using that experience, knowing where things often went wrong or where problems occurred, and helping head those problems off before they happen. I use that background to bridge the gap between the inspections department and the contractors or property owners in the effort to provide the best service possible and still meet our goal of safety, because safety is my number one concern.
Absolutely. What does inspections mean? Like what does that really mean for people? Because I think that's the intimidating part, is they hear the word, kind of like the intimidation of inspections and code enforcement. Like, they think you're something you're not, or they think differently about what you actually do. Tell us about
Sure.
that.
So everybody sees us as maybe a little bit of the law enforcement officer in a way. We're a code enforcement officer, and they see that regulatory authority. But what we really want to do is help people. We want to help their jobs be safe. We want to help their houses be safe, and ensure that there's an even playing field across the industry. That if one plumbing contractor is required to do this item, then every plumbing contractor is required to do this item. Uh, and to really bridge the gap between homeowners and contractors. So if a homeowner hires a contractor, they're not a professional in the industry, or they wouldn't be hiring a contractor for it. How do they know it's being done right?
Yeah.
I am that bridge. I go out and I look at what's been done to ensure that it's been done right for that homeowner, and that their money's being well spent in the end.
That is a really great analogy of like explaining you being able to bridge the two, because people don't know what they don't know, and they are assuming that the contractor that they've
Yes.
paid to professionally do a job has done it well. But sometimes there's a breakdown, right? And
Yeah.
sometimes things don't happen the way that we think that they are supposed
And
to.
not always intentionally. We're not. It's not
Sure.
always the contractor wants to do it wrong, but he's human too. He makes mistakes,
That's right.
and I can be just that second set of eyes to help make sure we've got everything just right.
Yep, I think so. And also, not just bridging the gap, I think, between citizens or businesses and contractors, but I know you guys are also doing a lot of collaboration amongst the departments in the city, which helps make things better and be a little bit more, I guess,
Efficient.
yes, efficient and well done, because communication, a lot of times when you collaborate, if the communication is broken down, like things are happening in silos. And if we can work together as a team, I think that things are not only more efficient but more safe for the folks. So tell us how that's working and what you guys have done to make that better.
So that's one that I draw from my past on. I know in my past experience as a contractor that there were times you could go to a local government and you would talk to a department and they say, well, that's not my department. And I really want to, our whole team really wants to change that outlook. So even if it's not something that's directly in my department, I'm going to take that person to the other department, and we're going to work hand in hand to find resolutions for these questions, to find help for these contractors and these residents, to really work as a team instead of just separate departments that just do only their job.
It's so important. It's so funny that that's how you explained it, because essentially for the chamber, well, that's what we try to do, right? When we partner with you guys, we try to be that bridge between the business or the citizen or whoever has come to us and they may don't know where to go or what department to call or what entity if it's not the city. And so for us, like that's a big model of what we do. And so I love that all of us have kind of become Team Reidsville to make sure that folks are getting what they need, and that it's safe and that it's done properly and that they're not just lost on the on the outskirts of City Hall trying to figure out which door to go in and where they've got to go. The customer service window at the back has been amazing. And I know that initially Chase was hired to be that person for businesses so that if he landed with a department, and he got to you with that person, that you guys together could say, where do they go next from here? So it's so nice to see that that has filtered through the entire city and that the employees are trying to make sure that they don't just, that's not my department, right? So
Yeah,
I love that because that's important.
I believe that is a culture within Team Reidsville, is to not just point somebody somewhere else, but to take them there and
By
help
the
them
hand.
navigate.
That's
Yes.
exactly right. And Diane, I will add too, the collaboration piece has added a little more personal touch to the customer service element that all city departments is able to provide now. And it's not like we're always just handing somebody off to another department to seek answers. Every project or every problem or issue may be unique in itself. So it may take a couple of departments to
Right.
roundtable to sit down to have some discussions to find the best solution for the problem. So the collaboration piece has been a huge benefit for the city of Reidsville, and I think ties into the great customer service that we have been able to provide over the last few months.
I think that's a really valid point. And, you know, that matters because what we see a lot of times, you know, we just had the property tax filing deadlines where you go through your personal property tax to the county. Like for us, businesses still don't do that. They still don't get them in the mail. They've never filed that stuff. They don't know. So, like, that's a great example of stuff that people have come to me with. But they also come to me with, oh, I'm purchasing a property, or oh, I'm renovating a building, or oh, and there's all these things. And so, like, we have to know where to send them. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about, what does inspections do? Like, how does inspections, like if somebody were to see you and they would be like, well, okay, he is inspections. Well, what is that? What does that mean?
So we start on the beginning of the process. So if you had a project or work you wanted to do, the general statutes would tell us that you, in some circumstances, would need a permit and an inspection to perform that work. So you would start that project out seeking guidance from our department, whether that's through a permit application or in person. If you're a new business, that could mean a change of occupancy. You would again come to us. We'd ask a question. And I think this is where we're very different. We're going to go out and in person review this to help guide you through the process even before a permit application is made. So my daily activity would be to review those permit applications, review the plans that go with them, and to communicate with the contractors, both during an inspection and before an inspection, to help make sure that we're complying with the general statutes and the codes. I'd like to have a very personal touch in that because I want to be involved and be proactive. I want to help give guidance where I can in every situation before we've had a problem. I want to pass an inspection. I don't like failing inspections. So if I can give guidance so that we can pass them by imparting that knowledge to the contractor before it's needed, I try to.
That is so crucial, I think. It's funny because right before you came, and I know you would remember, there's a business that, so these are the kinds of things that happen, but they needed to apply for their permit to change the use of the business on the building they were going to rent. And they already had given their notice. They were moving in, but their owner of their building said, oh, yeah, you're good to come in here and have a salon. They were not going to be permitted to have a salon in that building because they needed a change of use for that building. And so the chamber was able to step in and make a phone call and say, guys, we have a problem. This business has been around for a long time, just not educated, because all their experience was when they moved from building to building, they were renting and they were good to go. But this time they were not, and they had no idea. And so when that situation occurs, she ended up being a little delayed on a couple things just because, again, and the city was wonderful to work with, and I helped her. But in real time, if that happens and things have to go before and get approved and they have to make this meeting and that meeting, if you go out and you help on the front side, that process is going to be so much smoother.
We're trying to help head those issues off as well by having open communication with the realtors in the area, so that as they're looking at possible property changes or tenants or sales, that we're having those discussions on the front side to help get people in the right building that meets their needs, right, without having those issues down the line.
Yeah, because it's huge. I mean, that ended up being a huge investment for her in a salon where you've got folks who are renting booths from you and they're 1099, so they're not employees, but they might as well be employees. Like, you've made a decision as a business owner that's now causing people to be out of work and out of money because the timeline's not going to add up. And so that's why I try to educate people. If you are thinking about doing something, you must call the city and talk to them first, because it's so important, so that your timeline lines up with what's realistic about the things that have to happen. I think that you guys, you do a lot of things that are not fun. I think, when you have to have those conversations, you don't want to fail somebody. You don't want to have to tell them that it's not safe or it's not up to fire code. We have a lot of older buildings and older properties, and we have a lot of things that happen. So how do you approach those situations when you have to have that not so great conversation?
I think that delivery in that situation is very important. Uh, One, I have a lot of empathy for people in those situations. You're getting bad news. That's never easy to take. Uh,
And potentially costly
it can
news.
be. We're dealing with people's lives here, their livelihoods. So it does have a huge impact. I think one, ensuring that when you're making that call, that you're making the right call. We spend a lot of time in education in ensuring excellence in our everyday code interpretations to ensure that we're not making bad calls. That's step one. You never want to tell somebody something's wrong and you were mistaken for some reason.
Right.
Uh, so that's step one. And step two is to treat them with respect and dignity. They may have made a mistake, but that doesn't mean they did it intentionally.
Right. That makes a huge difference, I think, in the delivery. And I think, too, I struggle with there was a previous statement made several years ago by someone who, in their mind, they said, "Oh, well, you would never go out on the street and drive without a driver's license." And I was like, "Oh, that's a really terrible analogy because people do that every day." And like at the chamber, like I find that people just they don't know what they don't know. And so a lot of times they don't know that they have to call your department and do the things that are required. And so the fact that you're educating the realtors, the fact that we're doing this show that can be shared, like I think those are the things because for me, I have found that the chamber's role is to educate the general community, but people don't always call me. And, you know, if they call the small business center because they're looking for a grant or they're looking for help with a business plan, like, you know, having all of the roles that are involved and that touch people, making sure that we are all saying the same thing and speaking the same language. And I tell people immediately, I do not know the answer to that because that is beyond my pay grade and what I do. But if you will call this department and I will give them the phone number and I will say, they will help you or get you in the right place. Because I want people to do the right thing, but a lot of times they don't know where to start.
That's right.
And so, I mean, do you find that to be really like how do we combat that as a team? Like how do we say just call? Like I almost want to put it on the billboard. Like I almost just want to put it everywhere. Like if you're thinking about owning a building or like whatever it is, like what there could be different did you knows, but did you know? Call and put the number because I really do think people are just like a lot of folks are clueless. Like I don't know. Like I know the contractors, and I hope with your previous experience and people knowing you both from the city and the county and your previous experience that people know Chuck's a good guy. I can call Chuck and ask him. And I think that was an incredible hire on y'all's part because I do believe that Chuck has that ability to do that. But look, how do we combat that?
I think step one is we ensure that the lines of communication are open. And then when we do get communication, we're quick on that response. I know we're working on our website to make it more user-friendly as well so that we can find the answers we need in it as well.
That's huge because a lot of times y'all are having to dig through like things or people are having to like they don't have that resource and everything's digital now.
That's right.
Yeah.
So like they need to be able to have that at their fingertips.
I think another way is sometimes they just don't know what that first step is and they feel a little overwhelmed. So when we find that somebody has maybe overstepped where they should be, that we help guide them back in and really help take them by the hand in some instances and say, this is the form you need. This is step one. Start here and we're going to work with you.
That is so key. I can tell too what you do because your step one is, and we're gonna, and so, but the key is taking them all the way through whatever the last step is, however many steps, and making sure that it gets finalized and that they get to, and then the situations where I have been, I have worked with people in all my years who either just they did it all backwards, right? They did all the steps and all the things, and it was completely backwards. And unfortunately, it led to situations where, it didn't work out for them because you're right. They're dealing with their livelihood and they're dealing with their business, and they kind of had to make a decision to do something different. But then I meet people who, come in seeking information, which I think is also key. So I love that you guys have restructured to collaborate and to try to make things better. Do you have any specific examples of where you think that the collaboration amongst the departments has made projects or situations easier?
We couldn't nail that down to just one because it's something we do
Daily?
not just weekly, but daily.
Yeah.
Uh, we have questions about projects that occur, and I can literally walk right across the hall and talk to the zoning officer, and we can look at it together. And that's the kind of collaboration that's just part of our normal everyday life.
That is awesome. And that's what's got to happen. So I think it's awesome. Chief, I know that you, as this being our kind of transparent segment that we do, and like you said, we usually have our city manager, but also she brings along or introduces admin team here and there. We've done public works director, and we've talked about some of the projects for public works, and we've had Chris Phillips on to talk about budget and kind of just how things are from. He gives like that history piece, right, and that legacy piece, and so we've talked about that. As your new piece, like, how do you see, like, what is a current kind of update, like, other than the hire of Chuck and some of the restructure? What are some of the other things that are going on that you think are important for people to know?
Well, we're well underway with budget season right now, actually preparing for the budget retreat. I think Chris talked a little bit about that process
He
last
did.
month. So, we've been really hard at trying to sit down and crunch some numbers, look at some policies, look at some, I think, talking points that will go before council at the budget retreat to
What does
truly.
that look like? What does that look like for your departments? Like, what does that look like?
Well, it really just ties back into kind of how we're operating. We kind of do a in-depth look at what our needs are, what we're doing really well, what we're not doing well, looking at some areas that we can make improvements on, and then really just tying those department needs back to the ultimate goal of what the city of Reidsville is looking to achieve. So it's not something that happens in just a few days or just a few weeks. It takes some time to truly pull everything together, compile all the information, and figure out the best path forward for the city as a whole.
Yeah, it's funny. Chris and I and Summer and I both have joked, like, the budget's never really done. I mean, there's pieces that are really hardcore kind of from January to adoption and then the launch July 1. But once it launches July 1, you're tying up all the ends from the previous year,
Correct.
potentially maybe getting a spillover and purchasing a new vehicle or a new something because
Maybe.
something worked out if we're lucky, right?
Right.
But it's like it's all the time ongoing, and so I know that that's a big part of what you have to do. But how do you think that you like? Where do you see this whole piece in 5 years? Because I feel like we've come a long way in the last little bit. Like 5 years looking out, where do we see your departments and the things that you're working through? And Chuck, how do you see like what you're doing? What are y'all's goals for the city of Reidsville and what you think is going to happen?
Well, I think our goal from an inspection department is one, to continue to provide good quality customer service, right? Continue to ensure that people are doing work per the building code, per local laws, rules, and regulations. And I also think that our goal is to try to head off some of the questions and issues that may be unforeseen down the road by creating more of a public presence, whether that be, sitting down with Diane at the chamber,
Right.
trying to inform people and educate people on how we as a department can help individuals out in the community who are looking to grow and expand, maybe develop, whether it be residential or commercial, and try to partner with the community. Maybe have more presence online, maybe social media or the city website, try to better streamline processes so that it's more effective and efficient for applicants, So there's a number of things that we're currently looking at that I think will be beneficial to the city of Reidsville to try to spur some growth, some development, and be a better track to get people to where they want to go.
Awesome. Do you have anything to
I
add to
think one
that?
of our current discussions is the training of our current employees to ensure that they are offering the best customer service possible.
I think when you think about customer service, people immediately kind of just go to like that. It's that front line, right? You think about the first line, but it's really all the way through.
Yes.
And it's because everybody at the city really truly touches the citizens and touches because at some point or another, right? Or the business owners or whoever partners it may be. So I think that's key. And I think you guys have been doing that. And I think that makes such a difference. But I also think, kind of to your point, streamlining things. And we're in a day and age where things are rapidly changing. Had a ribbon cutting yesterday for the AT&T for the expansion of fiber. Like that to me just shows like where we are as a community and the things that are happening. And some of that at slow speed because they have to be slow. But you know, it's kind of a joke like between me and Michael at AT&T. Like fiber, it took a while, right? Like to
Yeah.
expand it. But what it did was increase the speed of at which you can get information, right? So we always kind of talk about like how I think progressive Reidsville really is as a community when they are, you know, when you look back over years and you think about the lake and you think about what was put in place years ago and how selling the water to Greensboro or how coming in and redoing the spillway. Like there's so many things, right? The streetscape. Like there are so many projects at Public Works. There are so many projects that are happening in the departments, whether it's at City Hall, whether it's at one of the other properties, whether it's at the fire station, whether it's beautification all the way down to infrastructure. And I'm just immensely and proud. Like I'm so proud, incredibly proud of the work that the employees of the city because you guys really care about what you're doing. You're passionate about your community. You're passionate about the work that you do. And I don't know how it can be possible to be passionate about inspections, but Chuck is, and I know that
Yes.
from working with him in the past. So um, that is to me like you have to be both. Like, and it's funny because you've already done like okay, step one, and then step two, and that's who you are. But you also have to be able to be a people person, and so
Yes.
like you have to be able to do both, which is incredibly difficult because that's kind of like introvert extrovert put together and produce the person. So I I think Chief, like what y'all are doing and what you're creating and what started last summer as a okay, we're gonna change some things up. We're gonna make this look different. I think that has been incredible to see the transformation start happening. And I think we're going to reap the benefits for years from that.
Well, thank you. And I think you hit the nail on the head, Diane, when you said, the city of Reidsville staff wants to be progressive. And I think, Summer made that very aware when she decided to do the restructuring. And, it's almost like service delivery. Do we want to maintain where we are, or do we want to try to improve to make things better? So, we're not just trying to be the status quo. We're trying to truly look at some of the issues and concerns that we have. And they may not necessarily be an issue or concern, but we could do a better job at providing a better service, right, by doing it a different way. So trying to make those tweaks identifies those areas. And we don't want to make change just to make change. We want to make good change. And I know a lot of people sometimes say that government work is slow. And I think it's slow for two reasons. One, the funds that we're utilizing, right, are taxpayer dollars. So we want to make sure that we're being good stewards of taxpayer dollars. And we want to make sure that we're making the right change. So sometimes government change can be slow, but we want to make sure that we are doing it right.
But also because there are processes. And
That's
also because
right.
you got to follow that step one and that step two and make sure that everything goes through the thing. But I think you hit the nail on the head when you were talking about the ability to, I don't know. when you talk about the city staff wanting to be progressive, also it's are your partners, like are your partners coming alongside, and like are your elected officials, and like we all have to work together to create this great experience for folks. And I think y'all are doing that, and I think that you are taking that to the next level. But also, you said it earlier when you said people are humans and they're going to make mistakes. So the biggest thing is like when I make a mistake or you all make it, like owning it and trying to correct it and figure out, or if one of your staff, right? Like, because you're responsible for like a lot of things, like other staff, like maybe like on same level colleague staff, but anybody, when anybody makes a mistake, that we're owning it and we're just trying to figure out how to be better and moving forward. And I've seen a lot of that, and I think that's
I think that truly embodies the Team Reidsville
I
slogan.
think so too. I've had people come to me and say to me, how did that Team Reidsville thing start?" And I mean outside of Reidsville. Say how, and I explain like the grassroots, the project, the research, the marketing, and then it kind of launched. And I was like, but I asked that question. I said, "Who owns the logo? Like who is?" And they were like, "Everybody." Everybody, like everybody is a part of Team Reidsville. Whether you're a citizen, whether you're a student, whether you're a family, whether you're a business, whether you're a part of the actual staff at the city, the chamber, we are all on the same team.
Exactly.
And so, like, I think people have really started to notice that. So I think that that's all we can do is put one foot in front of the other, right, and keep moving forward. So you said it. It's quick. We're out of time. We're past time. So, Chuck, do you have anything to add? Thank you for coming on the show and being here today. I know it was like one of the newbies, like, Chief kind of threw you under the bus and said, "Hey, you're going to come over and do this show." You did great. So,
No, this is great. I hope this is one of many. I would like to say Valentine's Day is tomorrow. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody.
oh, yeah, I like that too because I was actually just telling somebody I inherited a 15-year-old Valentine, I guess, because now I'm getting to that stage where we have other children that are in our thing. So I was just saying we had coffee at Eden Jewelry, and I was like, I don't know if all of y'all celebrate Valentine's Day, but apparently I have a fourth Valentine in my house that I didn't know about. So yeah, but happy Valentine's Day to everybody. I think Team Reidsville embodies what we all feel is that we love our community and that we want things to be as best they can be and a great place to live, work, do business, play, eat, shop, do all the things.
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
all right, awesome. Anything to add?
I don't think so. If the general public, whether you're a contractor, a business owner, homeowner, interested developer, interested investor, if you have any questions, if we can help you in any way, whether that be permitting, inspections, I can speak for planning and zoning. I know Drew, the community development director, is here, but we're all here to help. As Diane said, we are Team Reidsville. So any questions, concern, please don't hesitate to reach out. The customer service number for the City of Reidsville is 336-349-1030.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right, that is it for today's show. And as always, you can find us in the heart of downtown Reidsville at 140 South Scale Street, on our social media channels, and on our website at reidsvillechamber.org. Thanks, and see you soon.